Welcome back to Afternoon Live. Can someone really die of a broken heart? Our next guest knows firsthand the impact of a little-known and poorly understood cardiac condition, one caused by great emotional or physical stress. Here to share her story, we welcome the author of What Becomes of the Brokenhearted, Juliet Sullivan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Hannah.
I love the title of your book, first of all. How did you arrive on that?
It came to me while I was still in hospital after being diagnosed with this. I decided I wanted to write a book about it pretty quickly, and it seemed like a natural kind of title.
It's really beautiful when you can imagine a lot of people have these sort of mysterious conditions and they go through a lot of medical trials and tribulations. And tell me the beginning of your story where it seemed like something completely different was happening to you versus what was finally diagnosed.
So yes, what I thought I was having was a panic attack. I'd been through a traumatic event, actually a few traumatic events, including the death of a best friend and then the suicide of my mother. And then a few months after that, I joined a suicide bereavement group, a therapy group, and I had been to that group on the night in question. And I'd driven home feeling very strange. I couldn't put my finger on it, but it did feel like a panic attack. A bit breathless, a little bit of compression on the chest. I felt weird, like something was wrong, but I could not identify what it was. I actually went home, took a sleeping pill and went to bed. And when I woke up in the morning, it was still there, but worse. And I did think it was a panic attack. I thought, okay, it's carried on overnight. I was falling on the floor, but not in pain. It was more like I just couldn't get myself together. So my daughter phoned and got me, well, persuaded me to go to emergency. And then at emergency, they did an ECG and a blood test and quickly told me that the ECG was fine and then told me that the blood test wasn't fine. So it was confusing. So after a few conversations with different people, a doctor came into my room and told me that I had had a heart attack. I was really not convinced that I'd had a heart attack. It hadn't felt like a heart attack, and I thought I was very fit and healthy. Too young for a heart attack.
For sure, that was my first thought. I wouldn't suspect that whatsoever.
No, and I didn't either. And I think I may have laughed when the doctor said it. It turns out it's not a heart attack. It's a form of heart failure, but it took them a while to identify that. It took a few more tests, and it also takes a little bit of knowledge because not all doctors are aware of it. So it happened to be the right doctor at the right time that identified it.
Oh, good. I was going to ask you, you know, going through all of these things, even when you're in the best medical hands, there's all this new information coming in constantly, and you're depending on the people who are taking care of you.
Absolutely, and it was confusing.
So can you tell me more about what the condition is called and what exactly that means?
It's called Takotsubo cardiomyopathy. Took me a while to learn that. But I was told I got broken heart syndrome. So broken heart syndrome is like a colloquialism for it. And I've been told by doctors that the reason they use that term is because it's easily identifiable, and it kind of explains what it is, except it doesn't, because it's not always about a broken heart. So in my case, yes, it was. I do think that the trauma that I went through caused it, but that's not always the case. So some patients have a physical stressor, some people have a happy event that causes it, and some people, quite a lot of people, they say about a third of people don't have any identifiable stressor at all.
Wow. How rare is this, and have you been able to reach out to other people who have a similar experience to you?
I have. So I was straight, when I was in hospital, I was there for 6 days, so I had a lot of time. I was straight online, tried to find a book, couldn't find a book on it. Then I went onto some Facebook forums and I found a group of people, and that's what helped me, because through that I got some explanations, I got information, and I learned a lot, and I got to speak to lots of other people that had been through it, and actually some of their stories are in my book.
Right. Well, and you started on the book, like you said, pretty straight away, right?
Yes. Yeah, sorry, I start on the book. Sorry.
Right. That's what I meant. You just started writing immediately.
Oh, I started on the book, yes. I started writing it from my
down.
hospital bed. Yeah. I'd been there for 2 days. And because I couldn't find any information, I thought, I'm going to write a book about this.
Well, and you have your own unique way of weaving some humor in, right? Because you're all figuring this out as you go along, and you've got to have a laugh now and then.
I agree. I think that even in the darkest of times, you need to find humor. I really want to find humor in anything. And this was no different. It was a dark subject, 2 dark subjects, because I talk about my mum's suicide and the condition. But I didn't want it to come across as being all doom and gloom.
Really challenging to dive into those things and to share really personal details, but I imagine as you've been able to share the book with more people who can relate, it must be really rewarding to hear back from them and say, I see myself in this story.
Yes, I have. I've spoken to so many people through the Facebook group who are very grateful for the book because it's telling our stories and it's just so little known. Hardly anything is known about it. And in fact, as I said, doctors as well are still learning about it. I've been lucky. I've talked to quite a few experts, including one in Portland, actually, a doctor here who has identified it. He says he's treated at least 5 to 10 every year in the last, I think he said 20 years of his practice. So it's going on, but people just don't know about it. It doesn't get press. It's not a sexy condition, and it does affect women largely, not alone, but mostly women, mostly postmenopausal women, and it goes under the radar, I think, because of that.
Sure, sounds like underdiagnosed is kind of the beginning of that equation.
Absolutely.
Are there certain warning signs that you've learned about that we can be on the lookout for, or is this just really hard to navigate?
Do you know what? It's different for everybody. As I say, I spoke to lots of people and every single one of them had a different experience. The lead up to it was different and the actual symptoms were different. I do think what I found a common thread was this sense of doom. It's weird because it does feel like it's very psychosomatic, you know, it's attached to an emotional thing. It's like our bodies know that something is happening to us. That seemed to be quite common with people. For me, my symptoms were, I couldn't breathe properly. I felt like compression in my chest. I felt panicky. But it wasn't really heart pain as you would expect a heart event to be. So all I would say is that if somebody is experiencing something that they can't really put their finger on, and especially now in Heart Month, to be aware, to be heart aware. And women tend to think, you know, they can't have a heart attack like I did. And it isn't, like I said, it's not a heart attack, but it is a form of heart failure and it can be dangerous.
And we're busy and we have people depending on us. Like you didn't want to go into emergency and your daughter talked you into it. I think a lot of women can relate to that experience.
They can, and it was common when I spoke to other people. They kind of, you brush it off. You say, no, I'm fine. I can get on with this. I can get on with my day. She had to really talk me into it. And then I went via the bank. I said, oh no, I have to do some banking on the way.
Classic. We got stuff to do. We don't have time for this. Well, I really appreciate you sharing your story and congratulations on the book. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much, Hannah.
Thank you. Okay, Juliet's book again is What Becomes of the Brokenhearted, and we'll have more information on our website at katu.com. We'll be right back with more Afternoon Live right after this.